Me, run a marathon? Absolutely not. I've always been a runner, and one of the things that I have recognized is that running is very regulating for me when it comes to my emotions. And there is science behind running that it is bilateral stimulation, which can mimic EMDR. It is not MDR. However, that bilateral stimulation that happens in EMDR is beneficial to your brain. Hello, my name is Shani Tran. I'm a licensed professional clinical counselor in Minnesota, and I was diagnosed with ADHD roughly about 3 years ago, which means I spent a great chunk of my life undiagnosed and unaware. I have surrounded myself with runners, and for the most part, 10K has been my jam. The thing about it when I really sit with it is I never planned to be a runner. I just happened to hyper-focus on it. Sitting at my friend's table, visiting her in California, and she had just finished up her marathon. And she looked at me and she said, "Shani, you can do it." And I said, "No, I don't want to do it." But sometimes all it takes is someone implanting the idea, and not just implanting the idea, but sharing the story about how they did it that gives you courage and motivation to do it too. I didn't even realize it. I went home and I just started thinking about marathons. Then I said to myself, there's a halvesy. If I'm being honest, I just really don't want to be out there running 26.5 miles. That's just not my jam. I did want to challenge myself in a way that I never have when it comes to running. Hence, half marathon. The things that I do recognize about my neurodivergence is I need something that is going to lock me in. My hyperfocus is my biggest strength. So if I am going to run a half marathon, not only do I want to be able to hyper focus on it, but I need dopamine. I don't want to run on the streets of Phoenix, Arizona and look at the same old cactus that is dying. I wanted an experience that is beyond this world. And as I was looking and Googling, because I became hyperfixated on how I can get dopamine. I'm using the words hyperfixated and hyperfocus. Let's talk a little bit about them. Hyperfocus is when you are in the moment and you can lock in. So let's say, for instance, if you sit down at your computer, you've decided that you have a paper due and you set a timer for yourself and you lock in for 1 hour and you just get into the groove. We all know when you get into that groove, girl, that's hyperfocus. Hyperfixation is an intense, prolonged focus on, it could be a hobby, a topic. So let's say, for instance, if something happens in the world and you find yourself constantly Googling it, you wake up, you think about it, you Google it, you ask friends about it, you talk about it, and it's just continuously going on. That is hyperfixation. So the way that I memorize them in my brain is that focus is just that moment. Fixation is a long time. In my hyperfixation on looking up half marathons, I came across the Disney half marathon, and I knew right away, this is my jam. I mean, the fact that it sells out in minutes, I said, oh baby, best believe we are going to get ourselves into the Disney half marathon. And the first time that I did it, when I tell you I had my iPad, I had my Mac, I had my iPhone, I have 2 iPhones because of social media, I had my other iPhone all lined up on the website, in line, baby, we're going to do this. And best believe I got in. I don't know if I am someone that still thinks that Disney adults are, yeah, you know what I'm saying. They say it's the happiest place on earth. So if it's the happiest place on earth, why not do something that I really, really don't want to do, but want to experience at the happiest place on earth? Why not be miserable at the happiest place on earth? Dopamine. Dopamine. What is dopamine? Dopamine is a reward chemical. It is a happy chemical. We get this from completing tasks, learning something new, self-care activities. Those are just a little ways that we can get dopamine. What I'm basically saying, if I'm going to do 13.1 miles, I want to do it with the support of Mickey Mouse. Let's talk about my registration story in running my half marathon, because this couples rejection sensitivity. My friend that I told you about earlier in the story, who also wanted to run the half marathon, said she was down for it. And I thought this is going to be easy for her because she did a marathon. A half marathon, chef's kiss for her. I then let her know the day before, hey, I'm going to wake up in the morning and I am going to log into all of those devices, and she should too. She didn't really respond. I said, you know what? She's a grown woman. I'm going to let her do her. However, I was so excited because not only was I about to run at the happiest place on earth, but with one of the humans that make me the happiest. I secure my spot. I check in with her and she says, actually, I don't really want to do it. I don't really know all the details and those things. When I tell you rejection sensitivity hit, because not only was I now going to be running a half marathon, I was going to be running it by myself. This gets to be your journey now. We are not going to let anyone take this from you. This is for your inner child. And also this is for you so that you can say, yes, I did a half marathon and I am so looking forward to that medal. When I tell you I went into research mode, I got rid of the Apple Watch because the Apple Watch, she's a softie. You closed your rings. I got a Garmin, and best believe Garmin was like, okay, and run harder, run more. At first, I was doing a program where it would tell me to run a certain amount of miles. And I found that trying to reach a certain amount of miles was really playing a role on my nervous system that was impacting me in a way that made me anxious. I then switched to a program that was time-based. And throughout the entirety of training for my half marathon, I actually never ran more than 8 miles. Like, how am I supposed to do 13.1? Because I'm barely getting 8. All the research told me on race day, dopamine, crowds, it will all come together. You don't actually need to train and run the exact amount of miles. It's okay to stop your training 3 to 4 miles below that because you will finish. So why did I switch from mileage-based to time-based? As a neurodivergent person, this offered me several things. Less pressure. It reduced my anxiety, better body awareness. When I'm going by time, as a neurodivergent person, we can struggle with knowing our sensations and being able to label them internally. What I learned is that I actually have an overactive pelvic floor. That means my pelvic floor stays tight. Yes, it's from trauma. Because when I ran a 10K, when I tell you I peed myself and I didn't know why, because baby, the core is giving. When I went to see a physical therapist, she told me my core is intact, but it's actually an overactive pelvis. And I said, girl, I've been doing Kegels. What do you mean overactive? She said, Kegels are actually not good for you. A gallon of milk. This is what your pelvis is doing all day. And then you go to run up a hill or down. It's been holding this all day. Think of running up a hill or down a hill as now wanting to drink, but you've been holding it. So now you don't have any energy to drink. Why I pissed myself. My biggest fear was I would never actually be able to finish the race. Now that I'm able to, I have less anxiety. I know I'm going to finish the race. Now I really need to figure out how am I going to get myself through the race. Nutrition is very important. And here's why I like running, because baby, give me all the carbs. Then we had to figure out energy. A lot of people swear by goo packs. I can't sensory wise, I just can't do it. Like even just thinking about it right now. And I remember when I first started training, I was like, trying to get them down. I just could not do it. Here's what a lot of people say, and it will give you the biggest dopamine hit: nerd gummies. I tried it. However, I live in Arizona. So when I'm running with those in my pocket, they get a little bit squishy. And that led me to marshmallows. And you might be thinking, Shani, tell me. Listen, I got to explain that. But let me just tell you, I would start with a large marshmallow. And I would take a chunk out of it. It's pure sugar. But this is what I realized. It's pure sugar, but it's not really giving me enough carbs. So I settled on applesauce packets. There is a company out there, I believe it's Go Applesauce. They actually now make electrolyte applesauce packets, and it is chef's kiss. Here's what I learned. When training for my half marathon, it actually helped me in my neurodivergence as far as regulating my body, also regulating my emotions, and really just learning about how I feel on the inside, not just from a nervous system perspective, but also in my pelvic floor. Because as we know, a lot of our trauma is held in our pelvis and hips, y'all. And having to focus on that while you run completely changed my life. Sometimes confidence isn't believing that you can do something. It's trusting yourself enough to find out. I want to thank you so much for watching today and allowing my energy into your space, because here's the thing, I might not be there physically, but I definitely am exuding the type of energy that I hope that you can pick up and apply it to your life. Thank you so much for watching as I go from undiagnosed and unaware to diagnosed and aware and live my life. And I hope the same for you. So I have a question. Have you ever run a half marathon, a marathon? Will this be the year that you finally decide to put foot to the pavement and do it? Let me know in the comments below. I want to thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.